So in terms of the security threats that we see in the marketplace, in fact what we do is we annually survey our customers. We just completed that survey this year, and fully 46% of them reported DDoS as being an actual security event that they'd had in the last 12 months on their network. So it's clear that DDoS is a very clear and present danger, and it's also of course getting a lot of publicity in the press, so it's high on the CIO's agenda, and it's also operationally becoming more and more prevalent in our customers' networks. I'd be worried about how well prepared a lot of enterprises are. Again, what we've been doing is asking our customers, and most recently what we found was that only 30% of them have a budget set aside for DDoS next year. So even though nearly half of them have actually received an attack, less than a third have got a budget set aside, which is a concern. The other concern I would have is that they don't see it as being their responsibility. So when we've asked them, should you be responsible for DDoS attacks yourself, or should it be service provider or joint responsibility? Again, only 4% saw themselves as being primarily responsible, whereas 30% of them felt that it was really the service provider who should do it, and roughly 2/3 who said they should do it jointly. So the concern that we would have is that when people are looking at other people to help them out, they're not really taking responsibility and accountability for providing protection for their own network. I think our main strengths are twofold. First of all, we do work across a number of different vendors, and that means all of our engineers who are highly experienced in all the leading brands, so the likes of Cisco, Juniper, F5, Palo Alto, etc., etc. So we can truly look at it from a multi-vendor point of view and say, look, do you know what, we can build something that's bespoke to you. I think that's a huge advantage that we have. The other big advantage we have is that we deal a lot with the service providers. So we deal with the majority of the top 25 service providers in Ireland, so we know how they're operating, and we can close that gap between what the service provider thinks they should be doing and what enterprises are prepared to do. So I think we have the expertise and the industry knowledge to help customers close the gap between what they currently have in place and what they really need to make sure that they are better protected. You know, the design of networks is changing because the edge of the network is moving further and further away from what was the old traditional kind of campus branch type network. In terms of what considerations do customers need to be taking into account, they obviously need to be looking at the use of client devices. How do you secure client devices? And network security isn't just about routers and switches and firewalls, it's about every device on the network. It's also about making sure of user awareness. A lot of the initial flaws or ingresses into organizations are effectively done through human error, people inadvertently clicking onto things they shouldn't. So a lot of education, I think, is important. And I suppose the good news is, as the average working age of the population changes, more and more people who are in the workforce have grown up with this kind of threat and behaviour, and hopefully the gaps that maybe were exploited in the past won't be so easy to do in the future. But there definitely is a requirement to look not just at the traditional network, but at the client devices and how people are behaving when they're using those client devices as well.
Enjoyed this video? Click here to get the latest news on siliconrepublic.com and follow us on social media.